and welcome to Queer and Loathing, the only podcast where uninformed lunatics rant about how stupid everyone else is. I'm your host, Brett Bodie, and with me, as always, are my co-hosts.
I resent that.
You don't feel like an uninformed lunatic?
No, but whatever the second part was.
Rant about how stupid everyone else is?
Yes.
I've never heard you rant about how stupid anyone else is. You're right.
What's the hat you're wearing right now?
Shut up. My name is Mel.
And I'm Samantha.
Yes, and so today we're discussing Horror4Kids / things that we were horrified by as kids. Mel, could you take us a little further into the concept for this episode?
Yeah, so originally we were thinking about doing an episode on Jumanji, which I do want to talk about, by the way.
Absolutely.
But we thought we could expand out because I have like a thesis that, like many of the things I feel strongly about and talk confidently about, is maybe not based in any research or reality. That horror movies for children just really isn't a thing anymore. And it very much was a thing in the 80s and 90s specifically. So I wanted us to have an episode where we could talk about not just the things that scared us as kids, because I kind of think that there's like two types of that. Like there's the stuff that was mainstream for everyone that happened to scare kids, and I would say things like Jaws or even like Ghostbusters, like something that's not supposed to be necessarily super scary.
But as a kid watching it,
but there are like scary elements in that could scare kids, and they are aimed at a just broad audience.
Family audience, yeah.
And there are things that are specifically for kids that like star kids that are scary. And nowadays, I say this as someone who does not have children and does not watch a ton of kids' movies, I just don't think is like much of a thing anymore. Like I think there's a few examples of it out there, and I did do some research and I tried to watch one and successfully completed it, and I have some thoughts.
And we are so proud of you for doing research.
Thank you. I am
keeping up with us.
I'm not the research one.
Neither am I.
That's Brett.
I guess it's me, but I wouldn't really say that I am either, so that's where the bar is.
So I just wanted us to have sort of a loose conversation about some of the movies that were important to us as kids, that were either gateways to horror or scared us, or whatever. I don't know. Like I did rewatch some movies and watch some new movies that I had not seen before to prepare for this podcast. But I guess we can start. I will ask Sam.
Fuck.
Could you say your swear into the microphone more?
Fuck.
Very ASMR. When you think of like movies that are maybe for kids, or we'll just say like widely available, because like I've said I watched movies that were scary for adults when I was a kid, but that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about movies that are like they're either for children or were widely released and intended for families. Like, what movies come to your mind?
So, immediately, like, there were some of my faves. Like, to be clear, I'm not a horror person, or I'm slowly becoming one because of y'all. But I liked my spooky kid shit. I really, really did. So, I would say, obviously, The Nightmare Before Christmas, which I really loved as a small kid. And then when it got really, like, hot topic-y when we were teenagers, I was like, okay. But loved it. James and the Giant Peach was everything to me. I owned that VHS, and I played the shit out of it.
And both of those, I will say, are scary.
I was so upset by the end of Nightmare Before Christmas when he like turns into a bunch of bugs or whatever. I like hated it.
Oogie Boogie.
Oogie Boogie Man is so scary.
Fucking freaky.
Yeah. I didn't like that.
And James and the Giant Peach has got some shit in it.
It does. That one was scary too, but I could hang with.
But
James
like, I also kind of wanted to live in a peach because it looked so good. But also, I was like, it's getting old. Okay.
And Spider Mommy can
Spider Mommy
take care of me.
And Grasshopper Uncle.
I don't care about
whatever. He was fun. He played the violin, and so it spoke to me. And I have too many on my list, so I'll stop at. I guess I'll do Beetlejuice. I loved Beetlejuice. Scared the shit out of me. I can't say it one more time. Sorry. I was like, I said it twice. Don't you dare do this to me, Brett. No, don't do it.
What is happening?
With the Candyman stuff, I don't want this to happen with the B word. So I cannot say it a third time.
Okay, I'm actually, of someone who's so scared of anything, I'm not scared of Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice. I am not scared of him. What is he going to do? Just be, like, gross around me?
I think you'll find out. He's right behind you.
I love Michael Keaton.
And there's going to be Beetlejuice, too, so that's fun. But I'll just stop at those
To be
three.
determined. It's not out yet.
Oh, I keep seeing I think Justin Theroux's attached, so I'm in. But yeah, those are, like...
Who's that? Isn't he, like, the president of Canada?
Yes.
Have you not seen The Leftovers?
No.
Wait, is it not
He's
Justin
also in
Theroux?
Mulholland Drive.
Did I say the wrong name?
A bunch of shit. No, you're right.
Who's he in?
Who's
he in Mulholland?
He's the director guy, young director.
What was that?
You guys, I'm gonna cut this shit out. Justin Trudeau is the Prime Minister of Canada.
No, I think you have to keep it in.
Okay, sorry, continue.
I had some other movies, but also... Side note to Scary Stuff for Kids, I definitely want to shout out Courage the Cowardly Dog, which I loved.
That's on my list too.
And Real Monsters, which I couldn't
You
watch
mean
because it scared. Real
Monsters.
Monsters scared me. So yeah, that's what I think of.
But those are three great ones, and I think they're all very much within the same sort of, like, Tim Burton-y.
Yeah.
Are they all Tim Burton? Is James and the Giant Peach Tim Burton, or is that someone else?
I don't think it is, but it's very much
It's
inspired.
aping
It's in the feel for sure.
I would say it's something in that category, if nothing else.
But loved these when I was like a kid. Mm-hmm. And still do.
There was definitely that weird time in high school. I want to say like 2004, where Hot Topic just became like creating a certain kind of girl.
Yep.
Who was very into Nightmare Before. Like, as someone who shopped at Hot Topic, there were different genres of people who shopped at Hot Topic, and they all thought they were better than each other, and we were all not better than anyone.
Right.
But I definitely was friends with that genre of person, and I didn't dislike the movie, but the musicals I was interested in, I had already moved on
Yeah.
to, like, Rocky Horror. I was ascended already. They got there. They just weren't there yet.
They weren't quite ready to join you on that higher plane.
That's how I felt too. So
Like, it's a great movie, and I think I like it more now as an adult. But I do remember when I was a little kid, I would take, like, my toilet paper and make it into Zero. No, not a normal childhood experience.
It's so cute.
We didn't have phones. What are you supposed to do when you poop?
You had to read the back of the shampoo bottle.
It
Or
depends.
the cereal box.
Why
In
was
the
there
bathroom?
cereal in the
No,
bathroom?
Oh, okay.
Ha, he's just kidding.
He's not.
Okay, Brett.
Okay, so I would just like to say the assignment was to find 3 movies, and in the words of one of my favorite movies, I kind of misunderstood the assignment. All right,
That's
so I don't
okay.
have a list of 3 movies. I have a very long list of, like, TV show episodes and just
Love
like
it.
moments that I remember.
That's fine.
But to stick to movies just for right now, the ones I have are Jumanji, which we already mentioned.
Yes.
Jurassic Park, which has definitely some scary elements in it.
And it
some
has
tension.
2 kids starring in it.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
So
I would say it's firmly in
I'll count it.
that realm. And then the ultimate for me is Poltergeist,
Mm.
the 80s movie.
Kind of has 2 kids starring in it as well.
That's true. And is so fun and so scary, and it's one of my all-time favorites. But like the little clown doll and the scary tree out in the window, like there's some really creepy stuff in that.
It took me until I was an adult to be able to watch it, for sure.
And I have a theory about like millennial fear that I also can share.
Do
I want
it.
to know about it.
So it's related to something very specific, but I want to see what you guys think. So it's not about a movie that everyone saw. It's about a trailer for a movie when everyone saw the trailer. Final Destination 2,
Yep.
the logging truck,
Yep.
that scene, the highway pileup, and the logs fall off the truck and bounce and impale someone through the windshield.
Yep.
That trailer played on TV all the time. And ask any millennial you've ever met if they will like drive behind a truck with like
No.
logs on it.
Absolutely not.
No, and it's because that trailer played on TV all the time and we all saw that.
Yeah.
And even if we didn't see the movie, all millennials have that fear while driving on a highway that will get Final Destination 2'd. Yes.
I like it.
I obviously, in true me fashion, I don't remember seeing that trailer, but I did see that movie. And Final Destination, while not a franchise that I particularly identify with, has ruined a lot of things for me. Like being behind a logging truck, being convinced that when I'm walking through my neighborhood, if someone is mowing the lawn, that a little rock is going to just shoot into my head or something.
I mean, it could happen. I'm just saying.
But I think, like...
Some of them are more plausible than others, because there are obviously some really silly ones where you're like, because it's a whole Rube Goldberg series of events where you're like...
I don't think my house is out to kill me as much as some people deal with in those movies. But yeah, no, the movie trailers being inescapable is something that I don't think is a thing anymore.
Yes.
But very much was a thing for us when we were kids and before us.
Yeah, but I wasn't allowed to see the movies. I didn't see those Final Destination movies for a long time, but those trailers just played on TV, so I did see those trailers, and they stuck with me. And now, I love those movies. Final Destination is a franchise that speaks to me, except 4 is dog shit.
Oh,
but the others are good. And then a bunch of TV show episodes, but we can
I think it's
later.
worth mentioning though that we did have a lot of TV.
I was going to mention Courage the Cowardly Dog, which is one of my favorites. And they ran from all the way to just kind of funny and totally non-threatening to just a few specific moments where I found myself very creeped out.
So creeped out.
Yeah, I think the Return the Slab is within
Yeah,
the
that's the very
conscious
famous
of,
one.
Yeah, of our entire generation. I watched a lot of Cartoon Network.
Yeah.
And even just thinking about the shit we watched as kids was pretty fucked up weird shit. And so I watched 4 movies to prepare for this episode.
I watched no movies to prepare for this episode.
I also watched no movies to prepare for this episode.
Yeah, I'm the overachiever and also the most maybe stagnant person. So I watched Jumanji.
Yeah,
which
I did want to.
Fucking rules.
Yeah.
I guess to be clear, we're talking about the original.
Yes, and I will say that the new Jumanji movie, I haven't seen the newest one, but the
I liked it fine.
first new one I thought was really fun. But there's something to be said about having teenagers who are played by adults being replaced in the game as older adults.
Right.
That changes the idea of the original movie that it has a lot of child stars in it, strong child
Kirsten
stars.
Dunst,
Yes.
incredible.
Yeah. My main homegirl, Kirsten
Yeah.
Dunst.
Well, I watched another movie she's in that also ruled,
Ooh.
that has a lot less cultural cachet, called Small Soldiers.
Oh, I don't know.
That was very important to me as a kid. I'm going to talk about it.
All right.
And I watched People Under the Stairs.
Yes, I finally watched it for the first time recently.
Oh my God, it's so good.
And it fucking rules.
I have never heard of it, and I'm already scared.
No,
No,
you'll
you'd like it.
I think.
Okay.
You'll really
You'd like it. And the reason I watched it is because there's this guy, I don't know if you've ever heard of him. His name is Jordan Peele.
Maybe it rings a bell. I don't know.
He's the other president of Canada.
He was prime minister before Justin Thoreau.
Okay. But he had mentioned that movie in an interview I'd seen with him where he was talking about the movies he watched as a kid that were really meaningful for him, and I had never seen it, so I watched it. It is amazing and could never be made today.
But also you can see the influences across all of Jordan Peele's work when you watch that movie.
You can tell that movie was a big deal to him. And then I watched another Jordan Peele movie that he produced, a new kids movie called Wendell and Wild. That was a Netflix movie for kids that came out a couple years ago because I had heard that was a horror movie for kids. It was fine, but it does not, and I can see that Jordan Peele's influence is there because he had also kind of lamented in that interview I saw that they don't really have these kinds of movies anymore, these gateway horror movies. I feel like a lot of horror movies now are either sort of this Blumhouse, I don't know, Conjuring universe stuff, which is, I love my trash, but it's not for kids. Or it's super art house shit that's super,
decidedly not for kids.
super not for kids. Unsexy peens.
Oh.
And sex. I just rewatched Men.
Oh.
Yeah,
You didn't find it highly erotic?
I did not.
Well.
But like this kind of genre that was such a thing, I could tell, that love is in that movie. He just produced it. He didn't direct it. And the movie is okay. It has too much going on. But those were the 4 movies I watched to prepare for this. And I will say, Jumanji, Small Soldiers, People Under the Stairs, amazing. All 3. So Small Soldiers is Joe Dante. And people...
I need to watch it.
Well, people don't like it.
Is that the one with the little, like, the actual small toy soldier
Well, they're
deals?
not as small as you're doing with your fingers. They're like big action dolls.
Okay.
The idea, and the movie is actually kind of great. So, like, if you look up the movie, it has really bad reviews because people are like, it's just Gremlins again. And, like, to me, I see it as the remake of Gremlins that Gremlins 2 refused to be. Because Gremlins 2 is a middle finger.
Yeah.
Right? And then Small Soldiers is like an even bigger kind of middle finger to kind of like the merchandising industry. Because the idea is, wait, let me pull up the cast of this movie.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear.
Because this is a movie that has zero cultural cachet. I loved it. I watched it all the time. But I watched it when I was like, so it came out when I was 8, which is when I first watched it. The movie was super controversial because Burger King signed on to a deal to have Small Soldiers toys with their, like, whatever their equivalent was of Happy Meals. Mm-hmm. And then the movie had originally been pitched to Joe Dante, who made, like, Gremlins, to be an edgy movie for teenagers. So there was this miscommunication between, like, the studio and the marketing team. So the movie ended up being really edgy, but they removed a lot of the explosions to Joe Dante's misery, according to him.
I'm sure.
But the MPAA gave it a PG-13, which upset Burger King.
Right.
So they had to, I guess, pull a lot of the toys they were going to give. Like certain franchises just did like Mr. Potato Heads instead. Sorry, MX Potato Heads instead. But the movie got 2 thumbs down from Roger Ebert because he said it would be too scary for little kids. Right. I also roll my eyes at Roger Ebert's hatred of horror. But listen to this cast, okay? So this came out in 1998 from someone who had done Gremlins, so had, whatever he wanted. So we have Kirsten Dunst, Tommy Lee Jones, Phil Hartman, literally right before his death.
Whoa.
Yes. Jay Moore, who was a thing and is no longer a thing. David Cross, Dennis Leary. We have Kevin Dunn, Frank Langella.
Oh my God.
Sarah Michelle Gellar, Christina Ricci.
What?
Okay.
Michael McCann, Ernest Borgnine.
Oh my God.
Christopher Guest, George Kennedy, Robert Picardo, Dick Miller, of course, Bruce Dern.
What? What the actual fuck? How many famous people can be in one movie that I haven't
And
seen?
there's more.
I'm
There's
sure.
more. So, like, this movie was huge. It didn't quite bomb, but it bombed enough to be, like, a problem for the studio because there was this huge miscommunication. So, me as, like, an edgy 8-year-old was obsessed with this movie.
Right.
But I highly recommend it to everybody. I think I saw it on Somewhere Free for Me. So...
I'll check it out.
You
I'm
had me
very
at Sarah.
intrigued.
You had me at Sarah Michelle Gellar.
But she doesn't even have, like, a named part.
Yeah.
So it's literally a movie where instead of gremlins, it's toy soldiers just attacking a family.
Well, they always say don't feed soldiers after midnight.
But, like, I actually, and this is my spicy take, is I like it better than Gremlins. Because, like, while I like Gremlins, this movie has more thought to it. Like, I think it's more about, like, how we sell violence to kids and marketing and merchandising. And, like, the spoiler alert for a movie that came out in 1998. But, like, at the end of the movie, the soldiers have destroyed, like, 2 houses. And the guy who owns the toy company just writes checks for both the parents and then sells these evil toys to the military, and that's the happy ending. Like, it's so
that's
ironic.
very, like, Joe Dante.
Yes.
Ironic, like, cynical. Ooh, that's juicy.
And it's just, like, such an unhinged movie. Like, one of the main characters is Kirsten Dunst's mom is just, like, so drunk the whole movie. And the reason it got PG-13 is because the soldiers like shoot like Ativan into her booze, her gin and tonic, and like the parents get drugged and passed out. It's just like an insane movie. There is a character in it named Miss Kegel. So yeah, I watched.
Get your Miss Kegel toy at only a Burger King.
Exactly. So I kind of love that movie for being what I think encompasses a lot of what kids' movies used to be, which is so not slick, right? Like I feel like kids' movies now, like I watched the Wendell and Wild, and there were things I liked about it. There was like a trans character. The main character is like a black girl. Like there's things about it that would have been much, the lessons are better now. If I watch Moana or I watch Encanto, or like Turning Red or Elemental, I'm like, wow, these kids' movies have much better like morals than the movies we grew up with, because the morals of the movies we grew up with was like Fox and the Hound, where it's like sometimes you're different and that just means you can't get along.
Right.
Or like
sometimes you're Pocahontas and what's the moral of that story?
Bruh. Let the colonizers colonize you.
Basically.
Or like Quasimodo.
If they're hot enough, they can colonize you. You can have a little colonization as a treat.
Or like Quasimodo, sometimes you're just too ugly to find love until the sequel.
Don't I know it?
Didn't see the sequel. Did he find love?
Yes, and the girl's just
She
very
also
stupid. No, she's pretty but stupid. So yeah, so like I'm kind of sad that there aren't these sort of like insane movies. Like People Under the Stairs is insane for kids to watch.
Absolutely batshit.
Like the villain is like running around in a gimp suit, literally shooting guns at kids.
Yes.
Like
2 Twin Peaks alums as the deranged couple, which is just so fun.
It's
as a big
so
Twin Peaks fan.
Good. And they're dropping the N-word. Like it is.
And it's got major like class themes.
Yes.
That is like it's big.
It's about like gentrification.
Yeah.
In a big way. And these movies that couldn't be made today because they're so risky.
Yeah.
And I do miss it. So that's kind of, because I think like a lot of the movies now for kids are either like, there's no villains, there's just misunderstandings. I'm sorry, I like Jumanji, where your parent is encapsulated by an insane safari British guy literally
like
shooting an elephant gun at children.
Me too.
Sometimes the trauma just needs to shoot at the children.
Yes, thank you. Bring back shooting at kids in
God.
kids' movies.
Thank you, yes. Bring back real stakes. Because even the Wendell and Wild, there are villains in it, and the movie does have, like, the point of it is the prison industrial complex. That movie was made in response to missing the genre existing. And the genre does not really exist anymore.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. So, well, one movie that your list kind of reminded me of that I also, I guess, don't know if I found it scary so much, but it was like thrilling in an exciting way that's almost scary adjacent, which was Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yes.
Loved it.
Which was a really great movie that I really loved. Brian Usna, right?
Well,
He was involved in the pre-production.
I want to say that it was directed by the same guy who did Jumanji. But I'm saying things that may or may not be wrong.
Well, we both just said things that may or may not be wrong, so.
Skibidi-bidi-bada-bada-bop.
Scuba-da-ba-da-da-bow.
Yes, it was the directorial debut of Joe Johnston, who also directed Jumanji and The Rocketeer.
I'm fucking right.
You're so right. It was produced or story by Stuart Gordon and Brian Usna.
We do stan Brian Usna.
Yes.
And Stuart Gordon.
And Rick Moranis, who stars in that movie, who I
know.
absolutely love. And yeah, just like the giant like ants, and at first they're scary, and then they're like friends with them, and
how are we gonna get unshrunk?
So I tried to come up with a list, and I'm just gonna read these through.
Yeah.
Because I think there was just so many, and now the emptiness of that genre existing feels like weighty to me. So there's obviously Gremlins, The Gate.
Yes.
The Goonies, which I would say has horror elements for sure.
Yeah.
Fright Night, Monster Squad, and then later on, Coraline, which genuinely is scary.
And I do love Coraline.
Yes, Coraline's great. Beetlejuice, which you mentioned. The Witches.
Yeah, I have that one written down.
And I actually did not hate that remake, by the way.
Oh, I didn't see it.
Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island.
Yes! That was the The one where, like, the monsters are real.
Yes,
Yeah.
they're literally real. At one point, Fred is trying to pull the mask off of a zombie and, like, pulls its head off.
Yeah.
I don't remember
And there's,
this.
like, it's like a zombies and, like, cat people voodoo and, like, it's
Oh, you want to
really
know how
crazy.
dated that shit is? The Confederate soldiers are the good guys. The ghosts of them. Oh, yeah. The early aughts were a little out of control. Hocus Pocus, which I will admit I never connected with.
Oh, that was on my list.
It's okay. Most people like it.
I think it's totally fine.
It's fine. Dark Crystal, Nightmare Before Christmas, which you mentioned, Phantasm, The People Under the Stairs, Jumanji, Small Soldiers, Neverending Story, James and the Giant Peach I have, Lost Boys, and then I have anything by Don Bluth, which was
Yeah.
like The Secret of Nim, The Land
okay.
Before Time, All
Yeah.
Dogs Go to Heaven.
Oh,
The shit,
Dogs Go to Heaven.
The stuff that just traumatizes you.
Yeah, all the Don
Traumatizing.
Bluth shit is like that.
hideous animation with traumatizing moments. I will say I don't miss that for these kids now. They don't need that. There was
Yeah,
like
but it builds character, and that's what these kids are missing. So
yeah, the iPad kids don't have character.
I'm gonna Clockwork Orange these children and make them watch All Dogs Go to Heaven.
There was like a Little Toaster movie that was
Yes,
scary.
That's
loved
on my
it.
Really? Brave Little
Oh,
Toaster was
I
the most
loved it.
traumatizing movie I think I ever saw in my whole life.
It made me cry a lot.
I hated it so much that when I finally got to the end, it was like, thank God that's over. I will never ever watch it again because I found it so upsetting.
I mean, it was upsetting. I
was.
don't blame you.
Like the car is singing about like I'm so happy to die.
Yeah,
As they're crushed one by one.
Yeah, it's
It really puts you through it.
Yeah,
Horrific.
I didn't care for that.
similar fashion. The Little Nemo Adventures in Slumberland movie
Yes.
scared the crap out of me.
Yep, scary.
Oh, and then I mentioned Eight-Legged Freaks because I love that movie so much. So that was just like a list of movies that I just don't know what's comparable today. Like I feel like horror movies now
So-
are just so much for older teens,
Yes.
which is different
Right.
than
because
for little kids.
I would say the Fear Street trilogy on Netflix
I did love that.
is good. I love it, but it's obviously
It's
for
for
older
teens.
Yes.
It's for
It's like
teens.
at least the equivalent of an R rating. It's, you know.
It's for the same kids that are watching The Conjuring.
Yeah, it's like gateway horror, but not for children. It's for like teens. Maybe they'll start getting into harder stuff after they watch Fear
And-
Street. The one I can think of is Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, the movie.
But wasn't that just for millennials who were nostalgic for those books?
No.
Oh.
I mean, yes, it should have been, but no. I think it was. I think the idea was to make like a PG-13, but like soft, like gateway horror movie, like for kids. I haven't
people
seen it,
watch
but that was
it?
the yeah.
Oh,
But
I
I
should.
didn't, so
I
I-
should
I
watch
have no
it because
idea.
I loved those books.
I did too, and that's on my list too because I have some books on here. And I said that was like my favorite was those Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark books with the disturbing illustrations.
The illustrations are
But for
iconic.
some reason, they didn't really scare me. They just like fascinated me. Like I would just stare at one for like minutes at a time. Just like, it's so creepy, but like, oh, I loved those books. Did you ever?
I'm already scared. I don't remember this, but I also
It'll probably come flooding back
books
if you
were
see these
scarier for
pictures.
me than movies.
Me too,
So
generally.
I was a little more tentative.
Oh, I also on my list of scary just stuff in a movie. I was scared in Toy Story by Sid Next Door Neighbor's Abominations. The doll head on the spider
Yeah,
legs.
yeah.
I found them scary, and then they get humanized, so like they
Right.
don't stay scary, but
and they're
when you first meet
also
them, I
like,
was like,
we did
horrified.
not intend to be as we are.
Right. Yeah, it ends up more just like sad, and then they're
Yeah.
friends, but they scared me. Oh, the 5 seconds of the It miniseries that I watched on TV once, where Pennywise is trying to come out of a drain.
I did love
That was all I
that.
ever watched of it, was that one scene, and I was like, I'm good on that.
I think I've seen 0% of it, and yeah.
I've seen 1%, and it's that
Oh.
one scene,
Oh, I used to watch it a lot. Of course, I did.
right, as we would all expect.
So I guess it's time to take a quick little ad break. Brett, would you like to shill for us?
I would love to. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to shill.
You're welcome.
So today's episode is brought to you by Trauma for Kids. Are you an overly permissive babysitter? A cool older cousin? Possibly a divorced dad trying to get in good with your estranged younger children? Then you'll love today's product, Trauma for Kids. Show them a movie they're not quite ready for, but you didn't vet it for them. Just slap it on. What's the worst that can happen?
Me.
Mel is the worst that could happen. We have him right here in studio.
It's me.
Also, no, this is an ad, but call back to when I mentioned End of Days with my mom. I was asking her about it, and she was like, yeah, that's not what I meant to take us to. I was just so used to Arnold Schwarzenegger being funny in movies. And so we were together traumatized.
Yeah, are you a single mother who didn't do her research before taking your child to an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie? Then this product is for you. Enter offer code FUCKTHEMKIDS for 20% off trauma for these otherwise potentially well-adjusted children who no longer will be after enjoying our product. All right, we'll see you after the break. Toodles. And we're back. Hope you spent the break traumatizing some children with this week's sponsor. But now, listen up, bitches, because we're going to talk some more. Mel, take it away.
I had 2 margaritas before we started recording. Okay, so here's a question that I have for you, because I think this is such a kid thing. What is something scary, or maybe wasn't scary but was scary to you, that actually affected your behavior and made you do something different in real life because of that media? So I will say... Why are you laughing so crazy?
I'm going to just take that laugh and just put it on a loop. The whole episode will just be your creepy laugh.
Because
I was really brought back. I'm sorry.
I didn't know I hit a nerve so hard.
Yeah.
So for me, I can say, as much as I wasn't a Goosebumps person and was way more into Fear Street, there was a Goosebumps where there was like a ghoulie in the toilet, right? Like there was a monster in the toilet. So when I was a little kid, whenever I would go to the bathroom, I would either not flush.
Oh.
Very gross. Mm-hmm. This is really little, okay? This isn't like 12 or whatever. This is like 5 when they're not flushing anyway, right? Or when I was in public, I wouldn't lock the door to the bathroom because I wanted a really quick exit. It did not occur to me that you could get out fairly easily. So like for the longest time when I was a little kid, I would go to the bathroom like in public in like a single stall, like one of those like poopatorium stalls, and I wouldn't close the door. And so many times people would walk in and I'd have to do the like, I'm sorry. And they would like have this awkward encounter, and it's because of Goosebumps. Thank you, R.L. Stein.
Poopatorium stalls.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I just really like that.
But yeah, I was just like so scared of, like I thought when I flushed, a like ghoul would jump out at my butt or whatever.
Oh no.
And it still could happen.
It still could.
We don't know.
It could.
We just don't know.
Have you on TikTok seen
No.
when Australians post what's in the toilets?
Oh, yeah. They will.
I do check for bugs in the toilet.
I sure do.
When I was a kid once, I flushed the toilet and like a grasshopper just fell into the toilet from like the seat. Mm-hmm. And that stuck with me. And it didn't help my problem. So
if it's not a ghoulie, it's a grasshopper. I tell you what.
Ghoulies and grasshoppers. All right, someone else confess something embarrassing.
No, I am so with you. Back to being told movies on the bus. I don't know what I think it was partially it and partially some other thing I can't remember, but I was also scared of the toilet having things in it coming out. I was also scared of the tub drain. Mm. I still used the bathroom, still showered, bathed, but I was very nervous.
Did you lock the bathroom door?
Yes, I think I did. I think I did do that because I'm more scared of other people finding me in a vulnerable position. But also one time, my trauma, I was at summer camp, and so I was like probably like 7, and this is why I don't use porta potties. And I just really had to go, and it was open. I went in, I shut the door, I sat down, I look up, and there is a giant spider locked in this porta potty with me. And yeah, I don't go back in those. Yeah.
There are things I see in porta potties as someone who still uses them that are probably scarier.
I don't go in.
It's a lot of shit. I'm derailing.
Yes.
So
that's good because I don't think I have anything.
What's his name? David Gordon Green. So he made The Righteous Gemstones.
Yes.
He made, wasn't he also?
Pineapple Express.
Pineapple
He was one of
Express. So he's like
classic.
really good at comedy. This fucker
Oh, no.
sadly loves horror and has been buying up all our franchises. Brett, do you know what I watched this past week?
Was it Exorcist Believer?
It was Exorcist Believer.
And what'd you think about
I thought
Exorcist
it was the
Believer?
worst fucking movie
Oh,
I think I have
no.
seen in a really long time.
I also watched it, and I gotta say, I felt about the same.
I could not
It was
believe
shockingly horrible.
how bad that movie was. I was like, who the fuck are all these people in this room? There was like all these different kinds of Christians. Like even, what's his name? William Peter Blatty or whatever would have been like, this is a little much. It's a little much. The
Yeah.
movie,
Don't know who that is, but
it's the guy who
Much.
wrote the book, The Exorcist.
okay.
And like
Which I do own.
So
It's
a
a
good book.
really good book.
It's a really
I
good
read
book.
it recently, and it's amazing.
It's
I
amazing.
need to read it.
But like the book, he wants to get like Catholicism out there. But even The Exorcist, which is not the most subtle movie I've ever seen, was more subtle than this piece of shit. If someone doesn't stop David Gordon Green, I'm gonna assassinate him.
Oh no. That
For
was
the
Mel.
purposes of
That
the
was
pod,
Mel.
This is irony. This is satire.
That was Mel.
This is a comedy podcast.
I'm gonna shoot him in the face.
Satire, satire.
So for a super normal question,
Yes.
what's the gayest kids movie for horror, like horror kids gay
Labyrinth.
movie? Yes. Okay, discussion over.
Mic drop.
I feel like there's some good Hocus Pocus drag out there.
There is.
Just saying.
That's true.
Haven't you famously done Hocus Pocus drag?
I did for Halloween
I remember.
one year, and it was like with two super fans of Hocus Pocus, and I was also there.
Who were you?
I don't even remember.
Oh, redhead, brunette, or blonde?
One of
Okay.
them. I don't know. I'm
Okay.
sorry, I'm not the guy. I know I
Okay.
did the costume, but I don't know.
You're not the gay.
I'm not the gay.
Did you see the new one?
I haven't seen the new one, but I was getting ready by watching the old one with who'd never seen it. Or sorry, my husband who'd never seen it. Redacted.
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 Bleep.
With my husband who'd never seen it, and he had to make me stop watching him because I know it so well
Oh.
that I'm like saying all the lines and I am singing, and I was like, "You put this on," and now I'm here to perform.
If
You unleashed the beast.
Correct. So I never got to the second movie because I was enjoying the
pre-gamed too
original.
hard?
Because Redacted said,
'Cause
absolutely
Redacted
not,
said-
we're done.
I cannot with you anymore. And I'm like, but I've not seen this one. But yeah, maybe next year. We'll see.
Maybe.
If
It's fun.
you had to marry a cat
I'm
between-
allergic.
Sorry, that's not part of this bargain.
Doesn't factor in.
okay.
It's that cat from Hocus Pocus or
Binks.
Yeah, Binks
Yeah,
or
Thackeray Binks, right? I don't know why I
Thackeray.
remember that name.
what's his name?
Thackeray Binks.
Yeah, Thackeray Binks or Salem from Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
I'm not sure Salem is for the gals.
You think he's a little sassy?
Yeah.
Isn't Thackeray a child?
Yes.
Binks.
So I think we're
And
growing
Salem
up.
isn't even any human of any type, I don't think.
Then Salem by default. Because I'm not going to marry a cat who's also a kid.
Maybe grown up Thackeray, but also Cat Kid lived for centuries as Cat.
Yeah, I don't.
But would I be marrying him as a cat?
I didn't think that far ahead.
Okay.
I was hoping it would be like a fuck, marry, kill of 3 cats.
I don't know another cat.
I know. I couldn't think of one either.
Listeners, send in your Horror Kids Black Cat
For our fuck, marry, kill episode, which I actually think would be very funny.
to our email, queerandloathingpod@gmail.com. Send in all your cats for our Fuck, Marry, Kill episode about cats.
But we need to like know their name and personality. So like I don't want just a photo. I need to know like the highlights.
Well, like if you just send me pictures of like your cat, that's going in the trash. Of the
No, you
email.
can forward pictures of cats to me.
Yeah, but I won't. So
I like dogs. Give me dog pictures. Thank you.
I don't want to see any of your fucking pets. So don't send them to me. Those can be addressed to my
They
co-host.
do cute stuff on TikTok that I'm in.
There you go. That's fine.
All right, what else do we have to say about this shit?
Well, I just wanted to say that for some reason, I'll just tell briefly when I kind of turned a corner as a horror fan. It was like 6th grade. I remember it so clearly because I'd been famously a little scaredy cat like my whole life. And then in 6th grade, it was our first day. It was like our intro to the library because it was a new school, like public school, 6th grade. We were meeting the librarian, and she's recommending some books that she has featured. And she's like, and I have this one where it's like, if you like aliens and heads rolling around and whatever, then I have this book. It's like Stonehenge and aliens. And I was like, that one, please.
Absolutely.
So I checked out that one just because I was curious, and I don't remember what it was called, but it was very much like a gateway horror novel. It's like what you read in it's a middle school level, so it's like before you're maybe into Stephen King, even though I quickly was there.
Was it the one with the tripod aliens in the mountains?
No, but I did read those as well around the same time.
So, can we talk more about Jumanji?
Yeah,
Yes, I would
absolutely.
love to.
Because I rewatched Jumanji, and that movie is genuinely great.
I wish I had rewatched it. I didn't find the time.
I highly recommend it. The only little nitpick I have with it is that the CGI monkeys look like shit.
Yeah.
I do remember that, even like as a kid. I was
Right.
like, that's not.
And again, like I'm very aware that these movies were meant to be watched on screens that did not have the high definition.
That said, they also played in movie theaters.
Yes.
So.
But I also think that we just didn't see CGI the same way. The movie has great practical effects. That's one where I was talking about off the record, about movies where I don't know how well they would have worked without a certain actor in them. And I
Yeah.
think Robin Williams in
Yeah.
that role, like I don't know who else could have pulled that
It was
off.
perfect.
Like
No one I can think of.
I could see them trying to get maybe like a Tom Hanks or like, I don't know, like a Jim Carrey. And I just think Tom Hanks would
Tom
have
Hanks.
been too tepid and
Yeah.
Jim Carrey would have been too much. And Robin Williams is so perfect in that role.
He can really calibrate his performances like to perfectly capture the tone of the movie. He can do
Yeah.
all the slapstick, whatever. He can do incredibly serious and like anything in between.
Like the tone of the movie is goofy, but it's not like absolutely gonzo.
Right.
Like the gonzo stuff happening is shocking to the people that it's happening to and scary. And I just, watching it as an adult, the character of like Lady Serena, who's Robin Williams' love interest in the movie, it never was something I remember from when I was a kid where everyone thinks she's crazy because she saw a kid get sucked into
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
a board
What
game.
Bonnie Hunt, right?
Yes.
Played that
Yeah. Okay.
And I think.
Yes.
I think
Someone
that's
check
right.
on that.
Oh my gosh.
I did.
Okay,
Okay.
good.
Yes.
I phrased it as a question, but I shouldn't have.
She is treated like she's crazy her whole life. And so she becomes like a psychic and she like listens to like self-help books. And she's definitely a bit zooted on various probably mood stabilizers. And it just never, when I was a kid, that kind of character never really, like
It's
I
not
never
as
really
meaningful.
Yeah, I never
Yeah.
really like got the joke of that character, but also I don't think it's overly mean, which a lot of 90s and aughts movies would get very mean.
Especially aughts. My God, everyone was so mean in
Yes.
those movies.
They'd be like, here's the joke about this character, and then they would just be absolutely
They would call her an R slur, and like
Yes.
that was like 2003.
like just really awful. Like she's still a likable character, and
And she actually wasn't crazy. Which is
No.
a key part. Like she
Yeah.
really did see a kid get sucked into a board game.
She really was horribly traumatized.
Yes. I imagine I would be too. I gotta say.
and like the arc of Robin Williams' character is so good. Like I was crying at the end when he hugs his dad, and is just like, I always find, as someone who famously is not fond of gender roles and how they can traumatize people, I really like how the movie sort of navigates what is a man supposed to be. Because at one point, like throughout the beginning of the movie, his dad is like, chin up, you're going to the boys' school, you're not allowed to have emotions. When you get bullied, you have to fight back. Like, the only way I'm going to be proud of you is trying to fight a bunch of kids that are going to beat the crap out of you. Like, so his character is like a coward and feels bad about being scared of getting the shit beaten out of him, which is like, I don't know, kind of normal, I think.
I'd be pretty scared.
Weak. And then there's like this great part in the middle or kind of near the end of the movie where Robin Williams starts emulating his father to the little kid that gets turned into a monkey.
Yeah.
And then he catches himself and is like, wow, like 26 years in the jungle and I still turned into my dad. And he like apologizes to the kid and is like, I'm sorry, like I'll listen to you.
Oh.
And it's just like so nice and smart. Because again, like all these movies that we're talking about today, like a lot of them don't have the greatest messages sometimes. Like some do, some are kind of, But that one I watched and I was like, wow, this still holds up. Because there are so many movies that I rewatch as an adult that I loved as a kid. And I'm like, ugh, okay, this is problematic at best.
Yeah.
And kind of offensive. And I don't like it anymore at worst. And Jumanji fucking holds up. Like that movie is
so happy
still
to hear that.
so good.
I think I need to rewatch this week.
Yeah, I
Sold it
definitely
for
will
me.
be.
Like, don't overthink it. Like, it's a fun ride. There's a lot of good practical effects. Did you guys have the Jumanji board game?
No.
Really? It was so cool because when you
can't
play
risk it.
you would have these. Sorry, what?
I can't risk it.
Okay. Well, it was very cool at the time because you had these cards that you would put over the thing at the center, and then you could read them if it was like over the thing.
I didn't have it, but I must have played it at one point because I do remember that like mechanic.
It was very cool. And the other day, I was walking through my neighborhood because I be a white person walking through my suburban neighborhood all the time. And I heard drums coming from a house nearby. And this movie's so iconic that like all these years later, I'm like, Jumanji. But it's just, you know, some parent that made their kid practice drums in the garage. But like, I don't hate the new Jumanji movies, but I do think
They're different.
they're not kids movies. They're not gateway horror. They're not even really horror.
Aren't they just kind
No,
of
I
action
wouldn't.
adventure comedy?
Yeah.
They're more comedy than anything.
Well, everything's action adventure comedy now.
Exactly. It's all
Yeah.
been flattened out.
Yeah.
And that's why even that movie, Wendell and Wild, that isn't amazing. I did respect that it tried to really capture that idea of like kids can sometimes process things through horror that is important because horror is this way to interact with our feelings in ways that are safer because they're so extreme.
Absolutely. It's like how off air I was talking about how I need to listen to sad songs. And I really like that. Because again, it's just like, that's an easier way for me to get in touch with like those more negative feelings that I may otherwise be like more cut off from. And
Yeah.
the horror's kind of the same way. It's like any feelings of fear or disgust or apprehension or whatever. It's like horror is an avenue through which to work through them in a safer way. Like even if it's really intense, like it's still a movie. Your brain is not like, you're not actually running from crazy man with an elephant gun.
That looks like your dad.
Right.
You know, like
Yes.
I think it's very meaningful that in Jumanji, the man that's been hunting him all these years saying, face me, has the face of his father. And like, that's what I'm saying is like, I think kids' movies today, the trauma is always miscommunication, misunderstanding. And I will say, I do also like those movies.
But I wish that there wasn't only that.
But
Yeah.
sometimes the trauma can be a man shooting at children with an elephant gun.
Yes. We're pro shooting at
God,
children
no.
with elephant guns on this podcast. This is satire.
Well, until that moment, y'all have me getting so emotional. I
Aw.
love it. Mostly.
Yeah, I'm very excited to rewatch Jumanji. I remember just like loving the shit out of Jumanji.
It's still so good, and
Yeah.
it goes so hard. And like the ending is cheesy and like
I love a little cheese.
unrealistic, but again, it's a movie
I
that
like that.
has
Yeah, it was appropriate amount of cheese. I feel
I think
at the
you
end.
need that for a kids movie because it is a movie for kids. And I think that's the thing that's really missing now is like kids today, they can watch their Marvel movies that are just flattened out. Like they're the fast food movies.
There's exciting stuff in them, but nothing that's like fear-inducing. It's just kind of like, oh, how's this character going to get out of this one? You're not really like, is this person about to die? Because like, no, They're already signed on to the next 17 movies.
Right.
Or like,
They won't be dying in this one.
I don't have kids, but I see some ads for kids stuff. But like I see there's those like Hotel Transylvania movies, and they seem like they're just goofy fun.
I think
They're
They are,
goofy
yeah.
and charming.
That's it. It's like they seem like really charming and
But they're
fun,
not.
But they're not scary.
No.
Right.
Right? And like I have friends who have kids, and I see, their kids will watch this stuff where it has like monsters in it. And again, it's almost always the same sort of like tired diversity message of like
Yeah.
people may look different than you and they may seem scary, but like really we're all just, people. And again, like I think that message is really nice, and honestly our generation could have used like a little bit more of that.
Sure.
But some shit's scary.
But like sometimes you need to scare the shit out of some kids.
Yeah.
And they like it. Like
They do.
I did, my friends did. There's a reason why your friends would tell you scary stories on the bus.
And I wanted to hear it.
Right.
Like they were not forcing these stories on me. I was like, yeah, tell me everything about it. I'm going to get so scared.
Kids love
Yeah, 'cause
telling
it's
each
fun,
other
yeah.
those scary stories, those campfire stories. So again, to derail, but like I just finally watched the Mike Flanagan House of Usher. And I can tell, so I think Mike Flanagan is probably one of the best horror minds, even though he was rude to me on Letterboxd. But
Follow Mel on
Can I come
Letterboxd at HaterTot.
I am officially a Letterboxd troll who pissed off Mike Flanagan enough that he actually replied to me, because it seems like he only replies to people who annoy him. But I think he's one of the greatest horror minds of our time, and there's a lot of them. We are very lucky. We live in a horror renaissance. But I can tell just from watching the shit he makes that he is so nostalgic from people telling scary stories to each other. Like
Ooh, especially House of Usher, because that's the whole
House
framing
of
device.
Usher, a show I didn't really like, but the Midnight Club he made.
Oh, yeah, I didn't
The
watch
Haunting
that.
of Bly Manor. Like, he clearly is fixated on this idea of people telling each other scary stories.
Yes.
And that idea of, like,
Yeah.
scary stories we tell in the dark, like, are you afraid of the dark? Or this one that I mentioned during the break, which is Scary Stories for Rotten Children, a 1991 video game I had, because I'm very old. But, like, kids like to be scared in a safe environment because it's a way for them to interact with things in a way that, like, honestly, kids need to learn about. And these kids, they're going to interact with weird, fucked up shit online, right? They're going to see, like, pregnant Elsa, Spider-Man.
Spider-Man peeing.
peeing.
Yeah.
Like, they're going
Remember
to...
Elsagate? Because I was so fixated on it. Because
It
it was so
is-
creepy.
But the reason that got so many clicks is because kids are, like, morbidly fascinated.
You're right.
With shit like this. Like, I remember when I was, like, 10, old internet, I would go on, like, rotten.com. This is not normal behavior.
No, I
But,
didn't.
like, that's the
But I liked
extreme.
Happy Tree Friends.
But, like,
at
Happy
around that
Tree
age,
Friends.
yeah.
Or, like, I think we mentioned before, like, Salad Fingers. Like,
Oh, sound.
Yeah, like
these
Salad
these
Fingers.
ways for kids to interact with things that are like disturbing or weird because they want to kind of get these experiences. And I just don't know if there's like I think it's more safe and normal for a kid to watch Gremlins or even Small Soldiers than pregnant Elsa, Spider-Man,
Yes,
piss,
absolutely.
weird fetish clickbait.
Yeah, no. Fetish content for children is not where it's at.
Right. But that's like all that's available to them. So that's why
Yeah.
they click on that.
I was gonna try to support your point, but I was gonna be like, yeah, kids like to be scared. I was like, yeah, Slender Man, and then I was like, oh wait, that girl got stabbed.
Yeah, no, that's
God.
not, that famously
No.
wasn't a safe way. But like, okay,
But it should have been. It just wasn't. in
there's
that
always
case.
going to be one crazy person who ruins
Yeah.
things for everybody.
Right.
And like, that sucks. But like, creepypasta is something I love. Like, I was telling someone the other day how I never, as much as I was like always a weirdo, I never really got into fanfic. Like, that was never my realm, but creepypasta was my happy spot. Like, I love creepypastas. I still like read and consume creepypastas. And for me, they're just like a goofy, fun way to interact with like that same idea of being a kid, standing around the, campfire. Someone has, the flashlight under their face and telling a scary story.
And I'm one of those people who listens to those true crime podcasts, a lot of MFM and Wine and Crime. Love Wine and Crime. And
Wow, you've never been more of a white woman than
I know. But hello, I also listen to The Read, so give me credit. And if you don't know what that is, perfect. Perfect.
And you're too white to know what that is. then
Perfect.
win.
I took my black card right back. But it's not that I enjoy hearing these horrible stories about murder. Like, not that I enjoy it, but I'm like, this shit is real and happens, and I want to know about it just in case it's happening near me. Or, like, I feel like I also listen to a lot of stuff that deals with, like, shitty relationships. Mel and I in the car talking about,
Oh, my stories, aka Reddit Am I the Asshole posts.
Oh, God.
Those are my stories.
They're kind of my stories, too. I do like
my
those.
trash.
I mean, and it's wild, but I'm also like, maybe some people are like really not like in the know of like, yeah, get the fuck out of that relationship, or yeah, you are fucking wrong. But I'm definitely like, I want to binge all this awful shit so that I'm prepared for awful shit, which has not happened to me, which is great.
Right, but for anything that may come your way.
Yeah.
It's funny because I read those stories to feel better about my life.
Yeah.
And that is not what your reason
And
is.
you know what? It also does make me feel better about my life.
It should. So, anyone else have anything that they want to say about horror for the children? You have a
We
child.
didn't mention the Addams Family, but that was also on my list. Just
Oh,
gonna give that a little
yeah.
shout out. Loved that. Loved my Christina Ricci being so spooky all the time. Love her.
I really liked Adam's Family Values.
Yes. What were you asking about, my kid? Do you
Well,
have any
okay,
kid?
so as the one on the pod with a child,
I procreated.
Mazel tov.
Thank you.
What do you think? Like, when are you going to? Because your child is very small, too young
small.
for such things.
Yeah, we do not market trauma for kids.
To toddlers,
to toddlers. No, we do not.
No.
toddlers should be protected from such
Yes.
things. But like, are you going to shelter redacted?
That's
This is going to get so confusing because everyone who's not physically here is just going to be redacted.
redacted. I don't know, and I do think about it because like, my kid is so smart, not to brag, but also, like, I want to pay attention to emotional well-being. Just because they're smart doesn't mean they're emotionally ready. But also, I don't want to, parenting is hard. Side podcast, parenting is fucking hard, and no matter what, I'm going to do something wrong.
Yeah.
But I think I'm going to listen to my kid and where they feel they're ready. Something I did appreciate about my mom, besides taking me to see End of Days at 10 years old,
Which you really appreciate.
is there was no like, oh, it's rated R, you can't see it. It was like, well, what's the content of it? Like, maybe you can. Like, do you feel like you can see it? I think she did pay attention to where I was at. Also, the same parent who was like, oh, you love vampires. Here's the Sookie Stackhouse series when I was like 13. And I was like,
Well,
I'm
13.
learning a lot of new things.
That's kind of the best age to read.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's kind of the sweet spot. That's when I read a lot of, like, the Stephen King stuff.
Oh,
like
I
12
was
and
very into
13.
Anne Rice too. So, I guess we'll wait and see. But I do like a lot of your points about sometimes it's good to see the monsters too, not just like the monster is feeling bad. Like, that's the monsters feeling a certain type of way.
Guys,
but, like,
it's the 2020s. The monster is always trauma, and it can never be anything else.
But I think there's like an issue with that. Like, as much as I do love my art house movies where the monster is trauma, like, sometimes there are just bad things in this world that do want to hurt you.
Yeah.
And there's something like, to go back to The People Under the Stairs, that is a movie where the villains are just bad, freaky weirdos.
Yes.
Right? And they want to...
They're not misunderstood. It's not a communication issue. They're just very bad, fucked up people.
Yes. And they want to kill at least one child.
So they can, like, gentrify
Yes, they are
this
bad.
neighborhood.
They
They're
are
very bad.
bad people. And there's something that's just, like, good and simplistic about even teaching kids that sometimes there are people that are bad in this world and they're dangerous and you should get away from them and go to an adult and have them deal with it. Because that's, spoilers again, for a very old movie, but, like, that's how the day is saved, is the community comes together and confronts them. And, the little kid who stars in the movie, who's great, but he's like 10. There's only so much he can do. Like, he puts up a fight, but at the end of the day, like,
He needs community support.
He's facing off against 2 adults with guns and a very large dog. So, like, yes, I think that there's this nice idea of teaching kids through metaphor that sometimes people are different and they may seem scary, but, like, you just need to talk to them and then find your middle ground with them. Like, that's lovely. Or, like, the Encanto where it's, like, you may have a relative that you think is the villain, but they have their own trauma they're wrestling with. It's fine, and it's nice.
Yes, but it shouldn't be the only thing that kids are exposed to.
But I think kids should also know that sometimes the world has people in it who are just bad.
Yeah.
And they need to know how to deal with that too.
Yeah.
And how to process such things.
And
That's a really
be
good
able
point.
to identify it.
Yes.
All right, so let's wrap this up.
All right. Well, I believe we already mentioned our Gmail, queerandloathingpod@gmail.com. You can email us.
Only
but
if
not
you
pet
want.
pics or whatever. I don't know.
Fine. I'll just get my...
I'm just saying there's
dog and
probably
cat
other
pics from-
sources you guys can go to
Yes.
for cute animals.
That's true. But if yours is exceptionally cute...
Then keep it to your goddamn self. All right. You can follow us
No,
on
no, no.
Instagram.
You can send it to our Instagram,
Oh, there we go.
which Sam and I look at.
There
Yes.
we go. And I have not once.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
It's okay.
Yeah, our Instagram at Queer and Loathing Pod. That's AND. And then we already plugged Mel's Letterboxd at
Hatertot.
Hatertot.
Hater tot, one word. Tell me if there's any lists you want me to make. I love making lists. It's super normal for me, but it is also how I process things.
Yeah. So until next time, I'm queer.
I'm loathing.
And I'm Samantha.
Later.
Traumatize your kids.